Hey guys, it's Mike and I'm back doing a quick review of the Microsoft Surface RT. This device debuted, was announced in I think October 2012. I'm recording this review in April 2014, so it's obviously a little dated, but you can get these devices on sale now for about $300. I got this for $300 Canadian, and that includes a touch cover as well, which I won't be talking about today, but really good pricing on these now, and so I wanted to go through the device and my first impressions for those looking to make a purchase of one of these in light of some of the other competing tablets that are now currently on the market about a year and a half later. So just talking about the aesthetics of the device. As you can see, it's quite thin. I had heard a lot of reviews talk about how thin it really was. I think it is pretty thin. It doesn't feel, like some of the new iPads to me, which really do feel impressively thin, like the new iPad Air or the new iPad Mini. This is definitely thicker than those devices, but still very thin. The metal is Microsoft's, I think, proprietary Vapor MG magnesium, which is really nice to the touch. You do get some, and you can probably see it there. You can kind of get some fingerprint marks, but it's not too excessive, and it is a matte finish on the back. Really angular design, not the rounded edges, as you can see. It's kind of this angular design. It does have a much more kind of businessy appearance, and that's clearly what Microsoft was going for with this. As you would have seen in 100 places, integrated kickstand. It's really satisfying to use. It works really well, looks good. So you can see there. And I don't have any worries that over time the hinge will fail. It does seem to be very robust. It actually seems to affix in 3 places, the hinge. So one there, one in the middle, and one at the other end. So between those 3 hinges, it does feel like it's meant for kind of long-term use, which is great. Along the top, you have the kind of sleep-wake button there. A couple of microphones there and there. On this side, you have a volume button, headphone jack, and 1 speaker. And then on the other side, you have the USB port as well, and another speaker, and a micro HDMI out. So that's the aesthetic of the device. And if you want to see the AC adapter, there it is. It has the kind of same form factor as some of the Apple devices. The prongs themselves actually fold up. It's quite a narrow cable, and then it connects to the device with this proprietary magnetic clip, which is pretty good. The magnet's not as strong as the MagSafe connectors if you're used to those on the Apple devices, but it does seem to do the job, and it is multi-directional, so you can affix it either way that works for you. There is a capacitive touch button right down here, so this is the equivalent of the iPad's home button. When it's locked, often you can touch it and it will illuminate like that, which is pretty nice. Rather than having to hit the wake button on the top, you can just touch that capacitive button, which I guess is the same as an iPad. So here's the interface. You got to be familiar with Windows 8, or this is now running 8.1 RT. You got to get familiar with it, but 8.1, obviously this device debuted, I think, with Windows 8.0 RT, but since then 8.1 has been rolled out, and I would say it actually runs a bit faster with the 8.1, as you might expect. But pretty sleek and smooth, particularly here on the home page, which is pretty nice. So the screen itself, I think, is a 10.6-inch IPS display. The colors are quite vibrant. Viewing angles are very good, I would say, and you can probably get a sense as I bring the camera around there. does look pretty good. So that's pretty impressive. Like that a lot. So to show you some of the apps here, if you want to look at Internet Explorer, here's what it looks like. Obviously very responsive, as it should be. This is principally going to be a internet browsing tablet for most people, and so it needs to be able to be very smooth, and I think it is for the most part. You get quite a responsive internet browsing experience with the kind of usual delays, but pretty nice. Obviously you can have multiple tabs going at a time by swiping up from the bottom. If you swipe in from the side, you get kind of a context specific menu that looks the same here, but once you go into settings, it's the settings for the app. So here's the settings for Internet Explorer, which you can change, and then you've got some PC settings down here, so your Wi-Fi and screen brightness and things like that. And you can swipe that away. One thing that I think is really neat, and they've been working on this, I think, in Windows 8.1, is getting the multitasking capability up and running. So if you were to swipe in from the top to the bottom, that would close this app. Or if you swipe in from the side, you can bring in a new app. Or if you swipe back, it allows you to see everything that you're running on the side here. So I could hit any one of these and it would bring them up. Or I could grab the store, for example. So this is the Microsoft App Store, and bring it right here onto the screen. And so now I can have this internet browsing experience here, and at the same time, on the left-hand side of the screen, I can go ahead and look for some new apps for the OS. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, if you've used an iPad, the multitasking experience is not as rich as this. You really can't split the screen at all, which is a pretty interesting feature of this device, which I like quite a bit. So in terms of, that's very helpful for getting work done, which I like a lot. With a RT tablet, you're obviously not going to have a ton of processing power, and see what I did there is just swipe it away. That allows you to go back to just a single window. It's obviously not going to be that powered in terms of your ability to run complex financial models and things like that, but it does allow you to browse the internet pretty well, and you'll have no problem checking emails and things like that. Let me swipe back there as well to go back. So I really like that. In terms of app support, it's gotten a lot better since I think this device was debuted. I don't have a lot on here. There are some games. One thing I noticed, so like FIFA 14, for example, some of these games, the performance has gotten a lot better through the update to Windows 8.1, which is great. Some games ran really slowly on Windows 8, and I think the hardware and software or the integration between them has been optimized in Windows 8.1. So that's really good. A lot of Microsoft specific apps or Microsoft engineered apps. So this is a recipe app. They're all laid out in the same sort of way. It's kind of left to right swiping generally, rather than kind of up and down, and that's how this tablet is really supposed to be used, unlike a iPad, which is clearly meant to be used kind of up and down. This is a little bit different. So if I hit back to the home button here, so that's one. If you look at this, it's Microsoft's kind of health app, and this was a new addition in Windows 8.1 as well. So you'll see that start up, and again, swiping left to right, you can see all of the content starting to populate there. So some recipes and things like that. Same with the weather app, really good weather app, if I can find it here. Just kind of graphically pretty nice and pleasing, and a lot of information, hourly forecasts and stuff like that. So app support's gotten a lot better. You're not going to find as many apps on here as you are on the Apple App Store. they just don't exist. And for Windows RT, I just don't know if they ever will exist. But if you're looking at this as a tablet for you, you're probably not necessarily interested in having the ability to run every latest and greatest app. It's really more of a commuter work productivity tablet, and I think for that purpose it runs pretty well. So I've been pretty happy with it so far. I would not have paid, and I really waited for this to come down in price. I would not have paid anywhere near the, I think it was $500 plus for this was the original ticket price when this debuted a year and a half ago. And I think that was for the 32 gigabyte model. As I say, now you can get the device plus a touch cover for less than $300, and for me that was with 64 gigabytes of memory. And maybe I'll just show you on the bottom here. You might be able to see 64 gigabyte is denoted right there. And the other thing that I didn't point out is the connector on the bottom there for the keyboard, and then you have a little slot right there for your micro SD card. It's difficult to see. There's your power connector, but you can add another micro SD card there if you wanted some more storage space, which is pretty interesting and something that other tablets don't have. So a lot of storage space with the 64 gigs. You can obviously upsize that for a few extra dollars. Micro SD cards are pretty cheap these days, so I liked all of that. And for sub $300, I think it's a pretty good kind of laptop tablet hybrid. Really easy to kind of lie in bed or sit on the couch and do some internet browsing. But also if you need to fire up the email client and get some work done. The last thing that I'll say here is you do get full versions of Excel and Word, PowerPoint, and OneNote with this, which I'll show you here. And they're fully functional versions. I've had no problems. Again, you wouldn't want to be doing any super complex financial modeling here. But you do have the ability to work on spreadsheets or Word documents or PowerPoint presentations. It all works just fine. And again, this is in the desktop mode, which you've probably seen before, but looks a lot like what you'd be used to. And again, here's your very familiar Windows File Explorer. Now again, on RT you can't run exe files, so the programs that you might want to run, despite the fact that this format looks familiar, you won't be able to run things like Adobe Photoshop and those types of things. The processor just can't handle it. But you do have the ability to, use this pretty familiar interface, which is pretty nice. And again, the Office functions work really, really well. So thanks very much. That's those are my first impressions of this device. Yeah, thanks again for watching.